Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Evil Walks Among Us. Your host, Jonathan, interviews Dr. Jeffrey Checker, a supernatural investigator, author, and film producer, on various subjects involving the supernatural. Please join us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us with Jeff Checker and me, Jonathan Nato. This is Evil Walks Among Us. Jeff is a paranormal investigator, and we're here to talk about some very interesting topics. I'm just here to guide the conversation along, and we had an awesome last episode, talking about ghosts and demons, and this episode, I think it's going to be just as exciting, if not more, because everyone has heard of these things, and they may or may not have used one in the past. We're going to talk about Ouija boards. So, Jeff, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, Jonathan, how are you, buddy?
Awesome, I'm doing well. How's everything going on your end?
I'm just happy with life, man. Good to be alive.
And there you go.
Today we're talking about Ouija boards. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard of them. Everybody has, at one point or another, maybe even heard a story from somebody where they spoke with something or had a crazy experience with one of these things. I'm certain, right? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, no. I actually, an interesting. I was never aware of this because this was just I was born in the late 70s, but this happened in like the early 70s. You're probably more familiar with this than me, but it was kind of in the Midwest. It was called the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was like
with Ouija boards. Because it was when they first started selling them, I think, as like board games, right? It was in the 70s, like the early 70s.
Well, I think it first became patented around 1966. It's when the Parker brothers.
Okay.
But the interesting thing I found from doing some historical research is that it was very rudely created back in China, it seemed, although the dates are arguable. They don't know quite exactly when, but it seemed to be sometime in Asia, back in as far back as they're saying 1200 BC.
Wow.
And as far forward as maybe 1100 AD, but they had some crude plates with numerals going around in a circle, and then they would lay a stick down on this dish or this plate, and then call on spirits to move
to point the stick. Interesting.
Yeah, and so, and since that time, there have been many different rumors and stories. The most popular one is that there were 3 sisters with the last name of Fox, and I believe they lived in Ohio, and they were able to speak to spirits, and it became very well known that these ladies had this ability. And so then the quest came to, how do we more quote unquote scientifically create this discovery and recreate this discovery. Well, somebody thought of the Ouija board after doing some research, and then they saw that it would make money, and so then they patented it and created it as a toy unknowingly, and now it's used for all sorts of different purposes, So.
Then the part of the Satanic Panic thing that I saw, I was like, wow, that's like interesting or whatever. It was kind of the Midwest, and all these, kids or whatever, parents are buying their kids these Ouija boards, right? Probably for like Christmas and stuff or whatever. And like, all these kids are probably using them. And they, the claim was, to this kind of Satanic Panic craze or whatever that happened, all these houses started getting visitors, essentially, and they were like moving out of these houses, and like people weren't buying other houses because they're like haunted or whatever, and it was just like this big thing that happened. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yep, and it's true, because I was born in the early 60s, and we ended up having one in our home, I remember, as a small boy, and played with it occasionally, not really, thinking it was anything other than a toy.
Right.
But at that time, though, all this spiritualism was in effect, the 60s and the 70s. And I can recall having seances with people. unknowingly. We just did not have that knowledge. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have
Right.
TV or even the church talking much about any subject matter such as this, and so everybody we thought it was a novelty.
Sure.
Well, that's why I consider myself to be a little bit of an expert in this whole subject matter, is because I ended up kind of crossing the line and at one point in being on the dark side, let's say. I wasn't a Satan worshiper or anything to that effect, but I was not following anything.
Well, before you go into that, let me preface this before you go into it. Remember how we ended our last episode, listeners, where Jeff was saying that there's no, no, you're not talking to ghosts. That but you're reading the Bible, and there's no ghosts on earth. All there are demons. So if you're using a Ouija board and you think you're talking to some dead person, guess again, right? And so, Jeff, do you want to go into that then? Like
Well, sure. I mean, I've even had examples where clients have come to me saying they used a Ouija board, and all of a sudden they could have this, play the guitar. Within 3 weeks, they're playing like somebody that's been playing for years and years and years, and all these different things that seemed more supernatural than they were physical. And then the Ouija board was actually used against their attachment through the Word of God and prayer, and then that binding, if you will, was broken against them.
And then they couldn't play guitar.
And they couldn't play guitar anymore, and it was, it was better than having something living inside of you that didn't belong there.
Man. So what are like, walk someone through, because if a listener's like, oh, come on, like, I've heard all this, things on YouTube, videos of people, asking about their aunt, and then they answer a question about, and it's like, so it's got to be them, right? How does that work? Like, if they're asking questions and they're getting answers that no one else can know or whatever, like how do you argue against that or whatever? Like,
Well, again, if you base your belief system on what I do with the Bible, you look back and you realize you can do the math, or you can believe the Christian scientists. The Earth's only really about 10,000 years old, and these demons used to be angels in heaven, and they were booted out of heaven and put on the earth before we were even created in the 6-day period. So they've been around a while, and so it's not hard to figure out that, being that they are invisible, and everybody will agree whether it's a ghost or demon, these things are usually invisible.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're hanging around and you don't know it, they've been hanging around probably for quite a while, because I know from experience again and clients that we've helped that these attachments are created sometimes generationally. So it could have been hanging out for 3 generations, and then it gets to this person, and and they're playing with the Ouija board, and they're asking about the ant. Well, sure, they know about the ant because they've been hanging out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, like, what are some? I mean, you also kind of mentioned this in really briefly in the last episode about the Bible saying, like, hey, and that's why it says don't try, reach out and contact the dead. We'll get more into that next episode, but like, I mean, I think there's obviously some reasons why, because you can see sort of Ouija board, nights gone wrong videos, let's say. And so
right.
you can see examples of why you shouldn't do it, but, get into the details of really why you don't want to be, or, why you should at least think twice maybe before you flippantly start, messing around with it.
Well, sure. And, this might, sound really crazy to some people, and it might not to others, but imagine, if you will, like the Twilight Zone, right? Where the world we live in is really not as mysterious as we believe it to be. All these different supernatural sightings, a Bigfoot, alien, I mean, all this, anything you can imagine, cryptozoology, all this stuff. What if it really only had one answer, and all the stuff we were seeing were the smoke and mirror effect from the enemy? Right? So no matter if you use a Ouija board, a spirit box, play that Charlie game kids were using with paper and pencil, you name it,
Yeah.
tarot cards, whatever. God says that you're not supposed to be seeking advice from any outside source, and that if you do, you're not going to be speaking to the Lord, and you're definitely not going to be talking to a human spirit because of the aforementioned,
Yeah.
gap between heaven and hell and what happens when we die. So, what are you left with?
Yeah. No, I mean it's it's. I can't say I've ever seen a Ouija board video. I mean, not that I've watched tons of them, but I can't ever say I've actually ever seen one go well, whatever that necessarily means. But I never see someone ending it being like, "Oh, that was great," or what a wonderful experience that was.
Right.
I've never seen them end that way. So,
Well, and if it has, it's all part of their deception, because
right,
they're patient. I mean, all right, let's say I'm 50 years old and I've been bothered all my life, so basically 50 years, let's say, and then they are 10,000 years old. I mean,
right, yeah.
what is
50 years of dropping the bucket. Yeah.
Right, so they're going to hang out till they find their advantage point, and then they're going to attack, because they're the scripture even talks about we live in a spiritual warfare. Forget the physical warfare going on right now.
Oh, you there, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay, I lost you.
Interesting.
Right. I lost you when you're saying something about the spiritual warfare. Like, yeah, it funnily dropped you out.
Par for the course. It happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to clients, all good interference. So
we'll leave that in.
Yeah, I think we should. We'll leave that there.
But
so yeah, back to what we were saying. Anything, in my opinion, anything can be used to contact spirits, and then you just have to determine in your own mind whether or not you firmly believe that these things are human or not. And if you only firmly believe it because that's what everybody's told you and that's what your eyes see, I'm sorry, but you're being deceived.
Are there different levels of like I saw a video the other day, and this girl, I know this is a later episode, we'll get into like mediums and psychics or whatever, but this girl, she claimed she was a medium. I don't really know technically what that means exactly. I had a rough idea, but she was kind of saying that there's these different levels of spirits where at whatever the 4th or 5th level, that's where they're like really like, they could be like violent or physical with people and stuff. Are there sort of with demonology, are there sort of like ranks within demons where some of them will only go so far, and then other ones higher up they're the ones that will scratch someone or like drag someone across some room or whatever? Are there do you know if that's kind of how it works or whatever, like why certain activities could be just opening and closing of cabinets, or it could get way more physical, or you can actually, I've seen other videos where you can like actually audibly hear stuff like them saying a word or two, like without equipment, be like, so are there kind of like levels of like where ones can do things that other ones can't, or how does that work? Are you there, Jeff?
Yeah, I am. I got a phone call.
Oh, okay. Did I lose you?
Yeah. Well, they cut me off, and I'm back now. So
okay. Did you hear it all?
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've long believed it, and the Bible backs it up. And now I believe that from hearing other people speak about it and seeing the videos and the TV shows, that people are starting to understand that there is a hierarchy. Just like God created the hierarchy in the beginning for the angels, he names off cherubim, seraphim, and there's just different levels. There's different levels, and each one has its own gifts, according to God's will and purpose, right? So you got these warrior angels, you got guardian angels, but I wouldn't put it past God for him to intermix their abilities at times as he sees fit, right? Because he's God. So, same token, Satan wanted to be God, which is why he got kicked out of heaven. But yet, since he's got that pride and wanted to be God, he's kept that hierarchy of his fallen angels, and he does the same thing. He mimics God just like his demons mimic human spirits, and it's I mean, we found that there's these little guys, we call them the observers, or sometimes we call them
it's cutting out Jeff's internet again. Are you there yet, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm here.
It cut you out again.
Wow.
We've had many conversations, and it's never cut out like this.
No, it's never get interrupted with phone calls.
It's very funny. I mean, funny and not funny, but
I don't even remember where the heck I was at, honestly.
Yeah, you were talking about the.
See?
Yeah, you know what? Because now I'm thinking how it's just funny. It keeps cutting out. You were talking. Shoot, what the heck were you talking about? Oh, the hierarchy, and you were saying that,
shoot.
and they're these little like the little sneaker guys or whatever that look around.
Yeah, the imps, the observer imps.
Yeah.
We find them in haunted houses, supposedly haunted houses where they're empty.
Yeah.
We find them in clients' homes where people are living. So we seem to find them all over the place, but we don't always find entities that would be more oppositional in empty homes.
Okay.
But we do find a lot more opposition when there's people involved, because their ultimate goal is to stay there and make them lose faith and interest in God, so that their ultimate demise is burning in hell with these things,
Interesting. Very interesting.
And obviously it's like they don't like the truth that I'm presenting, because I'm hearing background voices come up through here. I'm not sure if anybody else has heard it yet. It's happened twice.
I haven't heard anything on my end.
And we're getting cut off,
Yeah.
And
what did you hear on your end?
It's garbled, guttural type sound.
Yeah. Ay. Anyways, freaking things. No, this was another good episode. I feel like we went a little bit longer, but it's just an interesting conversation to have, and an interesting topic for people to think about. Maybe they never thought about it from this angle, and I mean, everyone to each his own will. But
well, what I tell people is, if I'm wrong, what have you lost? But if I'm right, really stop and think.
Exactly.
What about what you might lose?
Exactly. That's kind of the thing. If I'm wrong, I got nothing to lose. But if I'm right, then you should at least think about it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
So everyone, thank you again for listening and downloading. You'll check out Jeff's website. There'll be links to it in the show notes and everything. Jeff has some videos and other stuff that you'll see on the website. Movies, there'll be other places. You check out his books on Amazon Kindle. So check all that out. Look at all the links. We'll look forward to talking to you next episode. Everyone, thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Peace out.
This has been a 777 production. Copyright 2022. You can purchase Jeff's books on Amazon.com, in either hard copy or Kindle. Just search for Jeffrey Checker in the search bar. Be sure to watch for Jeff's movies, Examining Eloise, and The Haunting at the Old Mill, coming to a streaming platform soon. You can also search for the Demon Hunter Society, as there is a website and Facebook page for contact information.